Germany's president is forced to take cover in a bomb shelter during his visit to Ukraine. He's promising the country more air defense deliveries.
Germany and the European Commission co-host a gathering of leaders to discuss plans for the rebuilding of Ukraine.
Markets stabilize in the UK as Rishi Sunak takes over as the country's third prime minister this year.
As protests take place in Brussels, Uber's former chief lobbyist turned whistleblower airs the company's dirty laundry in front of MEPs.
All smiles, but a harrowing reminder of what Ukrainians face every day. The president of Germany takes cover in a bomb shelter with locals in the country's north. Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who has been criticized for past alleged ties with Russia, was there to reassure Kyiv of Berlin's support. His meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was a chance to back up words with actions, promising air defense system deliveries. Ukraine is urgently calling Western countries to help protect its skies after ramped-up Russian missile strikes on energy infrastructure across the country. At a later press conference, Steinmeier had one message for Ukrainians. We are on your side, he says. We support you. We will continue to support you, economically, politically, militarily, for as long as possible. Germany, Mr. President, condemns Russia's escalating steps, which include partial mobilization and irresponsible nuclear rhetoric. As Russian strikes go on, Moscow continues to allege that Ukraine plans to use a so-called dirty bomb on its own territory. Western officials have denounced the claim as a pretext for Russian aggression. Inspectors from the UN nuclear watchdog are heading to 2 Ukrainian sites after Kyiv requested an expert mission to disprove the claims. It comes as Moscow calls a blast outside a television station in Russian-occupied Melitopol a terrorist attack.
The Kremlin intensified its information operation to accuse Ukraine of preparing to conduct a false flag attack using a dirty bomb. The Institute for the Study of War assessed that the Kremlin is unlikely to be preparing an imminent false flag dirty bomb attack. Ukraine's foreign minister said that the experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency are set to arrive to Ukraine shortly as Kyiv attempts to head off unsubstantiated claims from the Kremlin about a so-called dirty bomb plot. The Institute for the Study of War says that Russian forces are likely preparing to defend Kherson city and are not fully withdrawing from Upper Kherson region. The occupation administration officials have taken down communication systems in Kherson city in an attempt to limit civilian reporting on Russian positions to Ukrainian forces ahead of anticipated Ukrainian advances. Now let's take a look at what's been happening in the northeast of Ukraine. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces repelled Russian attacks in northern Kharkiv region along the Kharkiv-Belgorod region's border and captured few settlements towards Svatove Kremina in Luhansk region. Further east, some of the heaviest fighting continues around Bakhmut. Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin acknowledged the slow pace of Wagner Group operations around Bakhmut, saying that they advance only about 100 to 200 meters per day as Russian forces continued to lose ground near the city. In another slowdown, the Institute for the Study of War says Russian forces conducted air, missile and drone strikes against targets in Ukraine at a markedly slower tempo than in previous days. Now, the think tank says it possibly reflects decreasing missile and drone stockpiles and the strike's limited effectiveness of accomplishing Russian strategic military goals.
A challenge for a generation. That's how the task of supporting and rebuilding Ukraine has been presented to leaders at a conference in Germany. The European Commission President said the EU would be contributing up to €1.5 billion every month next year.
We have no time to waste. The scale of destruction is staggering. The World Bank puts the costs of the damage at €350 billion. This is for sure more than one country or one union can provide alone. We need all hands on deck.
The German Chancellor told the gathering in Berlin that the commitment would be on a scale similar to the decades-long aid plan the US created after World War II to reconstruct Europe.
So that's what is at stake here, nothing less than creating a new Marshall Plan for the 21st century, a generational task that must begin now. The recovery, reconstruction and modernization of Ukraine will indeed be a challenge for generations, one that will require the combined strength of the entire international community. But it is also an opportunity for generations to come if we get it right.
Ukraine has been under repeated aerial bombardment since Russia's invasion back in February, which has been increasing recently with strikes at key sites such as power plants.
Rishi Sunak takes over the helm of the good ship UK, and the markets seem to like it, stabilizing for now at least. But Britain's third Prime Minister this year has an enormous task of taming an economic crisis that has left the country's finances in a precarious state. A firm hand is required.
I will place economic stability and confidence at the heart of this government's agenda. This will mean difficult decisions to come.
Sunak's arrival at number 10 has made international news. Not least as he's the first British Asian to clinch the premiership, but congratulations from abroad may have been a reflection of hope that the political turmoil is over. France's President Macron tweeted he wanted to get on with the challenges of the moment. Ukraine's President Zelensky wanted reassurances that UK support against Russia would continue. And nearer to home, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon was looking for mutual respect after reports that Liz Truss never even phoned her. So to the business of forming a cabinet, which despite a few surprise choices was billed as returning experienced hands to the top jobs and looked like a bid to appease both wings of the divided Conservative Party. With his team around him, Sunak must now get down to work.
Digital platform workers and their rights are still at the centre of an EU-level debate, and unions say they are worried about the influence of lobbyists. Last December, the European Commission proposed a new directive on platform workers' rights. And on Tuesday, a demonstration was held outside the European Parliament aimed at protesting the strong lobbying activity made by platforms like Uber.
In July, the Uber files were disclosed, and it shows that Uber has escaped strategies to not respect the rules, that they have also eye contacts with politicians, and that they are lobbying hard to avoid legislation.
More than 100 people from different European trade unions took part in the demonstration. One of their points is that Uber increased its budget for lobbying from €50,000 to €750,000 over the last 8 years. According to the so-called Uber Files revelations, the US-based company co-opted MEPs, European Commission staff and national representatives at the highest level. On Tuesday, a hearing was held by MEPs to assess the influence of Uber and other similar platforms on EU policies. All this was explained by Mark McGann, the company's former chief lobbyist turned whistleblower.
When politicians try to stop us or slow us down, we co-opted democracy itself by leveraging consumers' political power, putting very public pressure on elected officials to back off, drowning them in millions of rider petitions. We told politicians that we would agree to stop the controversial, illegal Uber Pop service if they changed the law in the way that we wanted. We weaponized our drivers, and we weaponized our customers.
He also said that scientific research that was presented to European lawmakers was not properly independent.
When I was at Uber, we paid academics to use skewed data sets to produce numbers that favored Uber's position. The data would show high earnings because the data didn't take into account the time that the drivers were waiting between one trip and another.
The EU's anti-fraud agency, OLAF, is also investigating the case of Neelie Kroes, the former EU commissioner who allegedly lobbied on behalf of Uber during her cooling-off period when ex-commissioners are supposed to remain neutral.